Blue skies, downtown Cambridge. We're at Fulbourn Fen. Fulbourn Fen used to be, well, it used to be one of the season highlights. I once described it as the best marsh orchid site in this part of the country, and I think it was. And every season it's delivered, except last season. Last season I came over and it was so bad I never even bothered recording it in the end. There just didn't seem to be much here. There was a lack of quality, lack of numbers. It was just boring basically, and it quite shocked me. So I've quite looked forward to this trip. To come back, put it back on its pedestal, because it was better than it was last season, and I'm fairly confident today we'll see some of the better things that it traditionally offered. It's a marsh orchid site, southern marsh, early marsh, common spotted, hybrids, bee orchids, common Twayblades, all that sort of stuff, but you always used to have one or two special plants here. The white form of the incarnata early marsh orchid is always good to see. I've never seen it anywhere except here, and I've seen 3 or 4 of them here in a single visit. There were none last year, so I'm hoping I've timed it right to see them again this year, because they're wonderful plants. And as I say, there's always something special here, but it just didn't happen last year. So yeah, fingers crossed we'll have a good day. One of the classic and very many, no doubt, hybrids between southern marsh and common spotted. We'll be seeing a few of these today. This will be standard fare. Hopefully there'll be a few slightly different ones, but many of them. That's an early marsh orchid incarnata form. I don't know if it's just me, but they always seem to go very pale here. They don't open pale, but they go pale seemingly very quickly, and you get a lot of these sort of creamy coloured early marsh orchids that make you think it might be something different, subspecies or whatever, but they're not. They're just the incarnata form that's faded. Tricked me many a time. Seemingly increasingly rare, a pure non-hybridized southern marsh orchid. They seem to be the exception to the rule now on many a site. As the hybrids take over, this one's a pure southern marsh. Another of these very pale early marsh orchids. You can see how they could fool people into believing it's something more akin to a white than a bog standard incarnata, but as far as I'm concerned, they're just faded plants. I could be wrong. Another pure southern marsh, quite an unusual one this. It's quite a big stout plant with very few flowers on. Might have been nipped off by something earlier in its life. Common Twayblades start to appear in numbers now. There's a lot of them here. I was actually about to call that as a pale form of southern marsh, but when you get down close it's not. It's common spotted, and yeah, I think it's pure common spotted. It just has a palette colour that could be southern marsh, but that's common spotted. It's got spotted leaves, the stem doesn't look hollow, the flower shape's good. Not many of these around, believe it or not. There you go, just to prove me wrong, another one. Common spotted orchid, probably related, same palette colour. Nice to see. Another lovely coloured and very pure southern marsh orchid. I do enjoy seeing these now. To hell with the hybrids. That one is untouched. One of these that you could sort of stare at and think, is that this, is this that? Spotted leaves, looks like a hollow stem. I'll put that one down as a common spotted southern marsh hybrid, but lovely markings on the flowers again. And another one just next door with lovely markings, probably in the same boat, common spotted southern marsh. This one's only just opening, but yeah, more lovely markings on those new emerging flowers, very fresh, and it's quite a big southern marsh orchid, pure southern marsh orchid, classical markings. In case you haven't noticed, I'm really enjoying these pure, untouched southern marsh orchids with no common spotted interference yet. They're just good to see, lovely fresh, healthy looking plants. Well, there was a shortage of numbers here last season, but not the case this year. Great numbers. Nearly all southern marsh, but still great to see. Southern marsh orchids and early marsh orchids as well. Still a bit of pink in that one at the top if you look. The most recently opened flowers of this incarnata early marsh orchid, you've still got the flesh pink at the top, fading down to the sort of almost white at the bottom. Nice group of still reasonably pink early marsh orchid, which are nice to see. Plenty of Twayblades on show. A lot of southern marsh, numbers are up on last season for sure. Plenty of southern marsh orchids, a few hybrids, a few common spotteds, a lot of early marsh. Sadly the white ones are not there, I know where they grow. They didn't grow last year and haven't grown this year either, so hopefully they'll be back. That's a bit disappointing. I'm actually looking for bee orchids now, because there's usually a splattering of bee orchids on this site, and yeah, some of the hot spots of the past, there's no bee orchids there, so I'm going to go and wander into the next field, because I've become quite obsessed now with wanting to find a bee orchid. Persevere. Nice common spotted orchid. There's very few here. Traditionally there's very few common spotted orchids on this site. It really is more marsh orchid than common spotted. That's probably why there aren't any, or aren't many hybrids here. The population of common spotted orchids is quite small. No bees, no bees. Not a sign of a bee anywhere. Which may be a bit obsessive now to find one. I mean, I've been here back end of May before and seen bee orchids, so you know, we're not too early, unless the seasons are as screwed as some people have suggested, with some plants on time and others lagging. Yeah, I've not found one. That's very unusual for Fulbourn Fen. I'm going to keep looking, but yeah, not looking good at the moment. Oh yes, get in there. It's a bee orchid, or going to be a bee orchid. There you go, nothing special, Fulbourn Fen bee orchid. It's only just opened really, so it might give a clue as to why I can't see the rest. They're just lagging behind this season, but we've got one. Pleased with that. I've resorted to scurrying around looking for leaves with spots on there to find a hybrid, because I think I've only seen one so far. This isn't one. This is another pure, very attractive southern marsh orchid. Another pure, a very nice pale southern marsh orchid. It's nice that. Quite an unusual early marsh orchid, as in, well, we've still got the pink colouring at the top, which shows it's a young one, it's a new one, freshly opened. But yeah, the rest are sort of going over. This one is just on its way really, on its way out, still in bud at the top, and therefore still has the nice fresh pink colouring. Good to see. That's what I was looking for, spotty leaves, and there's not many. The stem is actually hollow, I've tested it, so although the flowers near the bottom could almost pass as common spotted, the ones near the top are definitely southern marsh, so it's definitely a hybrid. Definitely a hybrid. There aren't many of them around this year, whether there was in previous years. I thought there was, but certainly not many around now. A lovely pale form again of the southern marsh orchid. I think in the absence of anything else, I'd probably call that my orchid of the day. It is sort of browning off at the bottom, which I'm trying to hide. Still quite fresh at the top, but yeah, you don't see these up around Peterborough. It's a pure southern marsh, just of the much paler variety than what we see. Very nice. Another incarnata early marsh that's hanging on just to its original pink colouring at the top. If we'd have been here about 7 to 10 days earlier, these were vibrant pink at the top. They really are quite brightly coloured here, but they don't hang on to that colour for too long. They fade fast. That's probably the last one today, I think, as I'm heading towards the exit. Just the typical, you know, this is the Fulbourn Fen marsh orchid, standard, pure, untarnished southern marsh orchid. And it is good to see them. Well, there you go, glorious morning. Fulbourn Fen. If you like your southern marsh orchids pure, it's a great site. There are hundreds of them. Common spotted's very few, therefore hybrids very few, which is nice. It makes a change to actually see a pretty pure southern marsh orchid site. Early marsh, loads of early marsh, but they're all sort of faded incarnata forms. No whites, couldn't find any whites. There's Twayblades in there, as you saw. bee orchid, got that one bee orchid. I'm happy with that. Usually see more, but they seem to be running late. So we got ourselves a bee orchid, and that was about it. Nothing special again, nothing that really stood out, but there's certainly a lot of orchids here. Numbers are good, but they're dominated by pure southern marsh. So there you go, Fulbourn Fen. Look it up, it's worth the trip. It's a lovely trip out. It's a lovely place just to stroll around on a nice sunny morning like this, and yeah, you'll amuse yourself for a good couple of hours if you've never been here before. So look it up, Fulbourn Fen. It's in Cambridge. It's about 40 minutes from Peterborough, and worth the trip.